guys, it's Emily Swank here with Autism Assistant, and we're going to do another installment of our featured provider interviews so that you can kind of get to know a little bit more about some of our providers if you are interested in possibly working with them. Today we have Beth Ciangiulli, and she has agreed to speak with us from Stepping Stones Therapy. Thank you so much for being here today, Beth.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we're just going to hop right in, and I'm going to ask you about 5 to 6 questions that I think most parents would typically want to ask a therapist that they were thinking of working with, just so that they can see a little bit more about your practice and your personality and all that. Okay, so first question would just be, tell us a little bit more about who you are, about your practice and the services you offer, age ranges and location, that sort of thing.
I'm Beth, obviously, and I'm the owner of Stepping Stones Therapy. We are a private practice located in Bethesda, Maryland. We have a great little office that sadly is not being used so much right now, as most of our sessions have moved virtual with great success. So we offer both assessments and intervention for children starting at about the ages of 18 months and really going up through adulthood for many of them. We do individual and small group occupational therapy and speech and language therapy. And in normal times, we work in our office and in kids' daycare centers and in private schools as well.
So if you guys are doing teletherapy right now, does that mean that technically you could do therapy to anybody throughout the area?
So there are licensing requirements, and we still need to be licensed in the state that the person is living in. So we have expanded a little bit beyond our local area, and we're seeing kids who wouldn't ordinarily be able to drive to our office because they live maybe 45 minutes or an hour away. But since they're still in the state of Maryland, we can still treat them virtually. Unfortunately, we cannot treat kids who are out of state.
Okay, that's what I hear from most people, so that makes complete sense.
Yep.
So why are the services that you offer autistic children so important?
So most kids who are on the spectrum have difficulty with both communication and social interaction skills. And many of them also struggle with both motor planning and sensory processing. And kids who struggle with these things are going to have a difficult time both navigating the school and the home environment. And those are really the skills that we focus on at Stepping Stones Therapy. So the art of communication is very, very powerful. And kids who lack good communication skills are probably going to find themselves pretty frustrated that they can't get their needs and wants across. And then you tend to see potential behavior difficulties as a result. For students who are struggling with motor planning and sensory integration, the act of being able to sit in a classroom may be so difficult, and an occupational therapist can help with that sensory regulation in order for those kids to be able to focus and attend more readily in the classroom environment. And lastly, again, many kids on the spectrum have difficulty with social skills and peer interactions, and our social skills groups really work on promoting pragmatic language skills between kids. And our groups are made up of anywhere from about 2 to 6 kids, and they are continuing to run virtually with amazing success. We're so proud of our social skills groups. And these kids form friendships and bonds that really move outside of the therapeutic environment. Our longest running group has been together for about 15 years. The gentlemen who are in the group are all in their 20s right now, and they continue to learn and grow and develop every week. It's really exciting.
Oh, that's really cool to hear. That's a great testimony to that class and that group. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for parents who are new to this whole process, getting therapy started, just learning about autism, what should they expect to kind of get the ball rolling? How does that look? Is there anything you'd like them to know?
Sure. I think for a parent with a child who's been newly diagnosed on the autism spectrum, I think they are probably going to feel scared and probably a little bit overwhelmed. In 2020, information is so readily available at our fingertips, and I think for a parent, it can be really hard to weed through that information and really get to the bottom of what's the best kind of therapy, what's the best kind of therapist. I'd say try not to let them slow you down and really take your time, find the right providers, find the people that you connect with, who your child connects with, ask to meet them virtually or face-to-face if they're doing face-to-face visits. And I think it's really important to remember that a child is a child is a child. No two children with the same diagnosis look the same. So just because two kids have the same diagnosis as autism spectrum, I assure you, after working with hundreds of them over the years, no two of them are alike. So while it can be a little bit scary and overwhelming, it's important to get that information, because the knowledge that you then have as a parent translates to power, and it can help you help your child. And I think lastly, while you as a parent may not be an expert on autism, you may have any other training that doesn't make you an expert on autism, you as a parent are an expert in your child. So you need to remember that and feel free to go with your gut and go with your instincts and whatever they're telling you.
That is great advice. So true from my experience. I love that.
Yeah.
What is the inspiration behind, what got you into this and doing what you do?
So I always knew that I wanted to work with children, and I did not want to be a classroom teacher. I was very overwhelmed at the idea of commanding a class of 25 to 30 children. And while I love running groups, that thought is still very overwhelming to me today. So I really love being able to give more individualized attention. And I'm really inspired by the kids that I work with every day. It's not easy to be a child on the spectrum. And the strength and the spirit and the resilience that these kids show day after day after day, when the challenges of being a kid on the spectrum are more difficult than that of a neurotypical kid, really inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, that's awesome. What's the most challenging thing about what you do?
Well, I find it challenging when students plateau in therapy. So the therapeutic process really ebbs and flows, and it's sometimes a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of progression. So as a therapist, it's hard when progress slows, and it's hard not to see that as a reflection on myself. And it just means that I have to work that much harder to try to keep moving the child forward and in the right direction. To that point, it's just as rewarding when a child who started off with very, very weak communication skills really starts to figure out that power of communication. They have a little bit more of a sparkle in their eye. And as a speech and language pathologist, there's really nothing better than that.
That's awesome to hear. And last question is, what is something you'd like parents to know about you or about your practice?
So about me personally, I'm a parent too, and parenting is really, really hard work, and it's really hard not to second guess yourself all the time. Am I too firm? Am I too loose? Are my kids taking the right classes? Are they in the right school? And so on and so forth. I am a parent educator with a local parenting organization. So I really try to help parents through the trials and tribulations of parenthood, which changes as kids grow and develop and their needs change. And so while by training I am a speech and language pathologist, to my families and my students, I see myself as more of a support system than just supporting their communication development. And I would say for myself and all of the therapists that work for me, something that we share that I think comes through in our therapy every day is that we love what we do, and we all feel so, so fortunate that we've been able to find ourselves in a career that's enjoyable and rewarding, and it doesn't get much better than that as a professional.
Oh, that's great to hear. And that's cool about the advocacy portion. I did not know that. That's really cool. And I think that that's something that when parents can get someone that can help them kind of advocate for their child and navigate some of the systems, that can be a real game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be daunting and overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. If you guys want to contact Beth, or if you have any other questions for her, you'd like to see more details, you can visit her full profile on our website, autismassistant.com. And I'll actually put a link to her profile in the description of the video below this. But thank you so much for taking the time. It was great to get to know a little bit more about you.
Thank you, Emily.